Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today I'm in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and I'm at the Jack Daniel's Distillery, where we have the #1 Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey. We start off here in the nice creek, and behind me is the spring that supplies the water for the distillery. And that is very important, because if you have bad water, then you will have bad whiskey. And this water here is one of the best waters you can have for making whiskey. And here we see the water for making the Jack Daniel's whiskey. Jack Daniel's has the spring on site, and it supplies enough water at a very cool temperature of about 12 to 13 degrees Celsius. And here you can see all the layers of the limestone, and that is very important. The limestone filters out the iron in the water, and iron in water is very bad for whiskey production. If you have iron, you get a bitter whiskey. Here we have very, very low iron content, so we have a whiskey that is smooth and has no bitterness in it. So the water is very important, and now let's continue with the production. We continue with the mash bill. We have 80% corn, we have 12% barley, and 8% rye. All of the ingredients come from the Northern American continent. Corn and barley are actually from the US, and the rye comes from parts of Canada. We have 12% malted barley. That is important because the malted barley has enzymes that break down the starch into sugar. And this is done naturally. Some companies add chemical enzymes into their grains to break down the starch into sugar, but Jack Daniel's relies on the natural enzymes inside their barley. So here comes the grain. First you take a sample from the corn or the grain, and after the sample, all the grain gets into the property of Jack Daniel's and gets stored in these silos. We have 8 silos for corn, 2 silos for rye, and 2 silos for the malted barley. So now we're here at the fermenting rooms. Jack Daniel actually has 64 fermenters with a capacity of 40,000 gallons. That is a lot, but you have to supply the demand for this great whiskey. And Jack Daniel's has its own yeast strain that is kept alive in the lab for generations now. And that is very important for the flavor of Jack Daniel's. So it will be an original Jack Daniel's. Here, the grain comes from the cooker, the yeast is added, and the fermentation process takes a few days until you have the finished beer that goes into the column still. So now we're in the still room. It's very loud in here because you have the steam going through the pipes at high speed, and that gives you a really high-pitched hissing noise. This is one of the the column stills. They're all made of copper, and the copper is very important for catalyst reaction to make the whiskey smoother. Here we have the beer line. That is the beer line from the fermentation, and that is inserted at the top, and the steam comes from the bottom, heats it up, and splits the alcohol into the alcoholic vapors. The alcohol at the top is the highest concentration, and that goes down into the doubler. The doubler is the second distillation, also with copper, and comes back around through the condensers and goes through this tail house here, and is now white whiskey. And that is now ready for the charcoal mellowing in the next step. The Jack Daniel's charcoal is all made from regional hard sugar maple, and the specialty about the Jack Daniel's charcoal mellowing is that they grind it down before they do the charcoal mellowing, so they increase the surface area and the whiskey can react more with the charcoal and get even mellower. Now the stack's burning, and it burns for a few hours. Then the stack will collapse and we have a fresh new charcoal. We're at the charcoal mellowing. That's the very specialty that makes the Jack Daniel's unique. And here we have a tank of the already grinded down charcoal that we saw earlier. This is 10 feet of charcoal. That's about 3.3 meters. That is actually compressed, so we have more charcoal. And now the whiskey is run down through the charcoal, and the charcoal takes out some of the flavors of the whiskey that are not wanted in the Jack Daniel's. And the final product will be mellower and just a finer whiskey that everybody likes about the Jack Daniel's brand. The Jack Daniel's distillery has multi-story warehouses. This here is a 3-story warehouse, and it goes up to 7-story warehouses with a lot of casks in them. It ranges from 7,000 to several thousand casks or barrels inside one warehouse. And the position in the warehouse is very determined for the whiskey that is bottled afterwards. Gentleman Jack and the Black Label have different positions in the warehouse where they come from. And also very important is the labeling of the bottles, of the barrels. Here we have Jack Daniel's Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee, and the date. Date is year 2011. F stands for the 6th month. This is June, and the 27th. So it's bottled. The cask has been filled at the 27th of June 2011. The filling of the warehouse is one special thing, because all the bung holes, the hole where the barrel is filled and emptied, has to be on top. That is very important, because if you have it on the bottom, then you have a lot of leakage. So here you see all the barrels in one line, and all the bung holes are on the top. So what they do is they know how long the rack is, and they calculate it. They have special tables that actually measures by the clock. So you start at a certain position, roll it in, and then you finish with a position with a bung hole on top. And here we have a bottling line. This bottling line is specially for the single barrel select. Here we have a few tanks that will be filled with a cask, and because we don't wet the whiskey from different casks, we have a different flavor profile in every single barrel. Below it we have the carousel, and there the whiskey is being filled into the bottle. Then the whiskey comes around this conveyor here and ends up into these two machines. These two machines put in the cork and the label for the front. And after they are labeled and corked, we have the quality inspections that look for any impurities or any faults. And they go down the conveyor into the last step. And the last step is the packaging, and then the bottles will be palletized for the international distribution. So I'm sitting here with Chris Fletcher. He is in the company for 13 years now, and he is the assistant master distiller, and he will walk me through the tasting and also answer me some questions.
Sure, glad to do it.
So my first question is, right beforehand, whiskey, Jack and Coke is the thing in the world. Do you like Coke and Jack?
It's not the way I prefer to enjoy Jack Daniel's, but the great thing about our brand is it's so versatile. the flavor that we're getting ready to taste of our Black Label Old No. 7 whiskey, it's so versatile. You can mix it with something sweet like Coke if that's what you enjoy. You can mix it with something more sour. It makes great classic cocktails here in the U.S. Classic cocktails like Old Fashions and Manhattans are very popular. Or it's nice just to enjoy it just straight up like we're going to today. Yeah. The one thing we ask folks to do is to enjoy it responsibly.
Definitely.
But however you like to mix it is fine with us.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you ever go down to Atlanta and talk to the guys of Coca-Cola to, I don't know, do anything together?
I've never done that. I've never even been down to the facility before where they make Coca-Cola. So maybe that's a new idea. Maybe I'll consider that.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So what are we having now?
Well, we're going to start kind of at the beginning of the process.
Okay.
Which, we're a Tennessee whiskey, right? We're not a bourbon whiskey. A lot of people think we're bourbon, but we're actually not. We follow every single regulation that bourbon whiskey makers follow. So we do check all those boxes. And in fact, this first glass that we're going to taste, this would actually be considered bourbon. If we put this in a brand new oak barrel, it would be bourbon whiskey. But we have an extra step that we do before we get to that brand new barrel, right? And that's what separates this bourbon type whiskey from this, in the second glass, Tennessee whiskey. So you look at that, these two glasses, if you just look at them, they're identical. Now this one has not been through any charcoal. This comes off of our still, right? Our recipe is 80% corn. We distill it to 140 proof or 70% alcohol. Clear as water. All whiskey starts clear. That would be bourbon whiskey. But we take this whiskey and we filter it through 10 feet of sugar maple charcoal that we also make from scratch here at the distillery. All right. Now you can see, obviously, the charcoal doesn't add any color, right? It doesn't even add any flavors. It actually takes away. Charcoal is a natural filter. This is how Jack Daniel himself, when he was a young man, this is how he learned how to make whiskey. He did not invent this process. This is how he was taught by his forefathers. It's our tradition, our heritage of making whiskey here in the state of Tennessee was to charcoal mellow or soften this whiskey. So it really gives us an advantage of mellowing the whiskey before it gets into that new oak barrel, right? And then that's where it'll get all of its color, and a lot of its other flavors will actually come from the barrel. We'll get to that in just a second. But if we'll start, let's go ahead and just smell. Let's just lightly nose the first glass here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, I know the smell.
Uh-huh. A lot of people describe that as grain or corn, yeast, kind of has a beery, yeasty type aroma, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Those are the flavors that the charcoal, it's just going to remove those out. It's like, charcoal's like a filter. It's like a sponge. Let's go ahead and taste just a small amount. Put it on the tip of your tongue.
How much ABV I'm looking at?
We're only at 40 ABV. We cut this down a little bit. It's not 70.
It's not like straight from the still.
It's not straight from the still. We wanted to calm it down to help our palate really pick up on the flavors.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead and taste just a little bit. Just let it roll back. It will evaporate. Now,
okay.
Again, you get a little bit of bitterness from that grain, that corn flavor. Mm-hmm. You get a lot kind of in the back of your throat. It kind of sticks a little bit.
Mm-hmm. From my point of view, I can smell the flavors, but for me that's almost like a bit rotten fruit, like the yeast.
Yes.
So it's a bit fruity, but I don't know. It's too sharp for me.
It is a bit fruity, but
if I would enjoy this, I would rather switch to vodka.
Yeah. Well, we're not in the business of making vodka, so get a little bit of water first, I advise you.
Yeah, I've definitely got the...
Especially on this before and after, because there's such a big difference here. I want you to really get the full impact. Now, again, this is 3 days later after it goes through 10 feet of charcoal. Now it's Tennessee whiskey. Now, let's go ahead and just smell immediately on the nose. Now those fruit flavors are nice and sweet on your nose. Probably get a little apple, maybe a little banana.
Yeah. I would describe it as mellowed.
Yeah, mellowed, softer. Of course, obviously, you cannot smell sweet. You taste sweet, but the aromas that you smell, you associate with sweet.
Yeah,
right?
Fruity,
yes,
and
exactly.
caramel.
You don't smell that yeasty character. You don't smell all that corn, right?
So this is also at 40% ABV?
Yes, same
Okay.
ABV. Now let's go ahead and taste. Now, a lot more flavor in the front of the palate. Evaporates, it's a lot cleaner. It doesn't cling or coat to your mouth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's like it tastes like it has less ABV, I have to say.
Sure.
So this one I would have estimated at like, I don't know, 45, 46. This one below 40, I would say.
Yeah.
It's just pleasant on the tongue.
It is, exactly. I couldn't say it better. It's pleasant on the tongue, and we've already made it very pleasant on the tongue before it's even seen a barrel. This is why Jack learned and kind of perfected this charcoal mellowing, and why we very aggressively filter it through 10 feet of this charcoal. It takes days for this to happen.
Yeah, it's something you have to do. I don't know, it costs even a lot probably,
yes.
But it's good.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
It's worth it.
It makes Jack Daniels what it is.
I would say if Jack Daniels wouldn't be that successful if you wouldn't have that step.
Well, we'll never know. But
You'll never know.
And we're not going to find out either. So from there, we'll take this clear whiskey, and that's when we put it into our barrel. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to jump around just a little bit on this mat. I'm actually going to start on.
Okay. Can I interrupt you like a question before we go
Yeah,
into?
sure. Yeah.
So you have own cooperage. We're gonna cover that in another video. If you would like this video to see this video, click just here. And your barrels, when they added the flavor to your whiskey, you ship around the world to the Scotch, the Irish, and I've seen a lot of whiskeys that said bourbon barrel matured or bourbon cask matured.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anybody saying it's a Tennessee whiskey barrel matured. Do you I don't know, do anything to tell them that it's not bourbon, because definitely that's not bourbon, it tastes different.
Right.
Did you ever sue any Scotsmen for that?
No, not that I'm aware of. No. I think there is a lot of confusion around Tennessee whiskey and bourbon and the difference, even here in the U.S. A lot of people don't understand the difference and what charcoal mellowing really does. Charcoal mellowing was around, our friends up in Kentucky that make great bourbon whiskeys. There's history of charcoal mellowing there too.
Oh, okay.
There really is. I've read several documents that refer to rectifying or things like that through a charcoal filter and things. But for whatever reason, it didn't stick in Kentucky. And so that's the only difference in our process. I don't think we would ever certainly sue someone for confusing our stuff with a bourbon barrel. I can say that a lot of our used barrels, since we only use them one time, a lot of our old barrels go to Scotland, they go to Ireland, Canada, some of them go to Mexico for tequila aging. So our barrels are used widely on a global scale for distilled spirits.
Okay. Very nice. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you want to go first, bro?
Now, I want to start with our Gentleman Jack Tennessee whiskey, which is twice charcoal mellowed. Now, we said all of our whiskey gets the charcoal when it's clear, before the barrel. Mm-hmm. Gentleman Jack, if you just look at it, you notice it has a very light amber color. That's because the second charcoal mellowing is after the barrel.
Okay.
So we take the whiskey out of the barrel into a tank. We'll put it back through 3 more feet of charcoal. Right?
Okay.
Not a full 10 feet. If we went a full 10 feet, it would be almost clear again. When it came through, right? Because remember, charcoal's a filter. It pulls out. It does not add. And so in doing so, go ahead and let's just smell the Gentleman Jack.
Oh, there's a lot of vanilla going on.
A lot of vanilla. You should get that nice kind of fruity punch. A lot of those sweet notes. Very light, very fruity, soft whiskey because we've pulled just a little bit of the oak character back out of it. Go ahead and just taste a small amount. You get the sweetness up in the front of the palate.
Oh yeah.
Okay. You should get some of those fruits. Then as it rolls back, you get caramel, vanilla, a little bit of oak, right? But not an overbearing oak at all. Very subtle oak flavor.
Yeah, no. Yeah, in the finish you got the oak. It reminds me of something. Not candy, but something sweet. Maybe it is candy, but
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, again, obviously there's no sugar added here, right? This is a straight whiskey. There's not any added flavors or sugars. All of that color, 100% is coming out of the barrel.
So how many years are we looking at?
You're looking at, with Gentleman Jack, at least 4 years, maybe upwards of 5. Some of our products may age up closer to 7, but it's all done based on flavor. It's not done on just an age. The important thing is what we'll do at 4 years, we'll go in and we'll start sampling barrels, and we'll taste them every few months after 4 years until it's ready to be bottled. When our tasters decide the whiskey's ready, then we'll take it out and put it into a bottle.
And what position in the warehouse are we looking at?
Generally with Gentleman Jack, because we like that kind of light, soft whiskey, we're looking from kind of the mid-level and below on Gentleman Jack, because we do want a little bit lighter, more subtle oak on that. And then obviously the second charcoal mellowing is going to pull a little bit of that out as well.
Yeah, very, very light whiskey. Well, I like it.
Yeah, it's very nice whiskey.
I would say that is probably a good everyday run. So when you say, okay, nice day, just let it cool out. So it's not a dram like when you have like very strong flavors that you have to be in the mood for. So this is like
Sure.
everyday dram, I would say.
I find people with the softness and the nice, soft, light character of Gentleman Jack, some people love to mix it because they say that makes it very versatile, being so soft. Some people really love just to sip on it neat like this. You know, you can really enjoy the delicate whiskey that it is because of that second charcoal mellowing process.
Okay.
We'll move on. Let's skip all the way back to the left.
Okay,
Let's
good.
just skip all the way to single barrel. Jack Daniel's single barrel. Now again, first I like to look at the whiskey. Now you see much richer hue. You have kind of a burnt orange, almost streaks of red that you see.
Yeah,
Again, that's all
kind of a
natural.
bit red.
Yeah, all natural coming from the oak, 100%. And over half of the flavor of what we're tasting in these aged whiskeys is coming from the barrel, maybe 60 or 70%.
Yeah, for me, barrel maturation is everything.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we could go for vodka.
That's why we
but
make
that's
our
awesome.
own barrels at Jack Daniel. We're the only whiskey maker in the world. We make our own barrels. Everybody else sourcing their barrels from another company. They're paying another company to create their flavor.
Yeah, and I've seen the Sinatra Select, and I find that very cool that you have such an innovation. You have a lot of traditions. We've seen the whole plan. You have tradition. You have to do it the old-fashioned way. You can't change it, but then you just find something that you can do, and it works together with the innovation, with the tradition. I find that really cool.
Absolutely. Well, you can't add anything to Tennessee whiskey. So if you want to, try to be innovative and create some new flavors, you got to get creative with the process. And of course, we have every advantage in that since we do make our own barrels, right? And we do everything in house, and we control each part of the process. So we can experiment, and we've experimented for years and years. Just so happened the Sinatra whiskey, that was an experiment that worked really well. So
yeah, sure. We don't see the failed experiments, but
sometimes we have those. So now,
but you can never improve without errors.
Sure, absolutely.
But you don't throw them on the market. So
right.
Okay.
So single barrel, Jack Daniel's single barrel, only one barrel at a time, like the name says. So each barrel is its own batch. One barrel is one whole batch, smallest batch you can make.
How many bottles do I get out of one barrel?
One barrel will produce about 250 bottles.
250.
Yeah,
Okay.
it depends on the evaporation. We're going to lose about 30% evaporation for single barrel because it's only aged in the top floors of our warehouse.
Okay, so we're coming out top floors. Okay.
Top floors only.
So that's where you have most temperature,
Yes.
fastest
It
maturation.
gets much hotter in the summer up there. Heat rises. It really forces that clear whiskey to absorb into that wood further and further and pull out more color. That's why it's darker. It's going to pull out more of that barrel flavor, but it's also going to mean more angel share, more evaporation that evaporates up to the angels. Right?
Yeah, that's a pity, but you
Yeah.
have to, you have to have it.
You have to have it. That's right. Let's go ahead and smell and taste single barrel. Right away on the nose, you can tell it's much richer than the Gentleman
Definitely,
Jack.
it's I don't know, heavier. Let's see. You still have the vanilla and
Oh,
caramel,
plenty of
definitely.
vanilla and caramel because those are flavors coming
But
from the wood.
There's something stronger.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ooh,
Big whiskey.
definitely spiciness,
Mm-hmm.
but it's around spiciness because you have the white oak.
Mm-hmm.
It's not no bitterness. It's just spiciness. Usually, I find some whiskeys with spiciness. It also comes with a bit of bitterness.
Mhm.
Here you don't find any bitterness.
All right. Well, you've still got those sweet brown notes, the
Mhm.
vanilla, the caramel,
Definitely.
coming from the oak. That's all intensified as well. So it's a very rich,
Mhm.
very robust whiskey. I love the complexity of this whiskey with that still soft, smooth Jack
Mhm.
Daniel's finish.
How many ABVs does it have? Is it a bit strong?
This one in the U.S. it's at 47.
47?
For most of the export market, it's 45.
45. And
Mhm.
Gentleman Jack was a bit lower, right?
40.
40. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You definitely taste a bit. Comes a bit on stronger because you
Mhm.
have more
A little more
right?
alcohol. And we do that on purpose because the fun thing about single barrel whiskey, each barrel is a little bit different. So a little bit higher alcohol, you're going to retain more of those nuances from barrel to barrel.
Mhm.
So if you get a bottle of single barrel, we actually put the individual barrel number on that neck label.
Oh, okay.
So if you match, you buy one bottle, you go and you buy another bottle with the same number, it'll taste the same.
Ah, okay.
But if you find one from a different barrel, it'll be slightly different.
Can you actually quantify how much variation of flavor you have with a single barrel?
You can be very surprised with these barrels because these barrels, Mother Nature controls this. Once it gets into the barrel, we can only watch it and taste it and see how it goes.
Yeah, sure.
What we create really is this. So there is quite a bit of variation. I kind of drop it into 3 ranges. We have kind of a lighter, softer range that would kind of remind you a little more of like a traditional black label, but with a little more kick. Then we have very dark, oaky, smoky barrels. Very much on the opposite end of that spectrum. A lot of spice, a lot of that toasted oak finish. And then we have barrels, which I believe this sample falls in, kind of that medium, mid-range, balanced barrel. So you get the caramel sweetness, the vanilla sweetness that comes out, and it's balanced with that oak spice. As you said, it's kind of a very well-rounded barrel. So I break down the single barrel flavor in kind of those 3 ranges.
Yeah, I can't find any smoke in there. Yeah, I would say
I would definitely call
bit
this
stronger than
kind of a medium mid-range barrel. Definitely amplified of those brown sweet notes, the caramels and the vanillas. The oak is there, not so much smoky, but you do get some spice in the finish that comes out.
Definitely, I feel the spice in the finish. I think I'll need some water for the next one
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Well, this next one is old number 7, right in the middle. And the reason I go in this order, we started very light and very soft with Gentleman Jack. We've gone to the other end, much more rich and robust with single barrel. So now, old number 7 falls right in the middle, right? This is going to be our most balanced whiskey. It's why I think, it's one of the best-selling whiskeys in the world. It's because it's so balanced. It mixes well with anything. People can enjoy it in their own unique individual way, right? So you'll notice just on the nose, it's going to remind you a little bit more of Gentleman Jack. You get that kind of fruity nose, okay, very sweet, right? And you taste it. Again, nice sweet up front, but then in the back, You get a little more oak, not nearly as much oak as what you got with single barrel, but a little more oak, little slight astringency on the edges of the tongue.
Develop. Oh, now it develops. Okay, now I'll get the oak. Yeah, you had to start with the vanilla again and the caramel,
Yes.
but I find it developing a bit slower than the other, but it comes now. Yeah. It's very. I always thought that American whiskey is stronger flavor, but I never considered that they had a great finish. But now tasting it, the finish is really long.
Absolutely, it is. And you have different finishes too. Now, the Gentleman Jack finish is shorter. You get a little bit longer finish out of the old number 7. And then the longest finish we had was single barrel.
Definitely,
Yeah, for
definitely.
sure. Yeah.
So yeah, now it kind of wears off, and I had to wash down the single barrel because it's just so intense.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
From my point of view, my favorite would be a single barrel. I'm more the intense person for the whiskey, because that's just what whiskey is about, barrel maturation, and that is one example of good barrel maturation.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's why we make the different brands, the different things, and how we use the natural maturation process in that barrel, or with Gentleman Jack, the second charcoal mellowing after the barrel. That's how we create these different flavors. All the whiskey we just tasted started just like this.
Yeah.
80% corn, right? Distilled to 140 proof, filtered through 10 feet of sugar maple charcoal.
Yeah, I'm pretty amazed. Well, I've seen the whole distillery now, and I'm pretty amazed that it is a big plan, and you have to meet the global demand, and that is big. But you sized it up in a way that you still have the old traditions going. And what I like about you is that you have everything in-house. I'm not that kind of fan of outsourcing everything, because it gets out of hand and gets out of your control. So really good company.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of people, when they come to Lynchburg and they see it, they get it. It's still made the same way. It really is. If there's one thing that I could tell you, we are making whiskey the same way my grandfather made it back in the 1950s, which is the same way he learned from the Motlow family, from Jack's family themselves. So, that's one of the things we pride ourselves on. And sure, we have friends all over the world now, but we've got to make sure that the tradition, the authenticity, the flavor consistency of Jack Daniel's never changes.
So, yeah, that's nice. So, thank you for having us. And if you'd like to know more about Jack Daniel's, then please visit our website, Whisky.com. For all the Germans, it's Whisky.de. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up or share it on Facebook or any other site. Thank you for watching.